All right, just a quick one before we get going. So please don't take anything you hear in today's episode as financial advice. Please speak to a trained professional if you do wish to participate in markets. Crypto is inherently risky and you will lose all your money, particularly if you listen to us for financial direction. So enough of that. Please give us a like, subscribe, enjoy the show, and see you next time. Okay, we're back. Another episode of DYOR. This one was probably our best watched segment, where each quarter we're going to bring up 3 projects each that are unreleased to go through, unpack. Hopefully there's a lot of them that you haven't heard of, and as I said, because they are unreleased, we'll try and give you a bit of information of how you actually get exposed to them as well. So the last one, I think I picked, what did I pick? IntentX.
No, I picked
Pair
IntentX.
Pro.
Or you looking at mine?
No, yeah, I'm looking at yours.
You got a good entry, Vertex and Juicy.
Yes.
The Perp Show.
Oh yeah, attended to the perp show because we didn't corroborate notes before. This one will not be a perp stacks episode. Yeah, I had good entry, Vertex, GCU, had Ion, IntentX, and Pair, and yeah, I think all's looking well in those camps. I think IntentX is doing extremely well. I think Vertex, a lot coming out of that camp. So if you pay attention to the website, there'll be a lot of juicy information coming out of there soon. But yeah, IntentX, the pairs they've listed recently, it's going to be difficult to. I know we said this on that initial stream, but it's going to be really difficult to match that.
Yeah, it's just anything that any SEC supports or any backer supports, you can put on there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, have you seen? So I know we've covered intent on this segment as well quite a lot, but I was on with Jordi Alexander from Mantle and Salini Capital for an episode of Still Alley that's coming out next week, and he's saying they're focusing quite heavily on being one of the number one solvers in the space. And I was just asking him about how like market makers are positioning for that, and I've even seen recently signups. The bridge they've started to. I don't know if they've rolled it out just yet, but they're rolling out a intent-based bridge as well, and I think a lot of people are starting to pay attention to across. So as we mentioned previously, I think that side of the industry is only going to increase.
Yeah, I mean, intents make a ton of sense for bridges, so I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, just all the any of the bridge liquidity that's been exploited or the founders have been arrested and they can't get access to the multi-sig.
Yeah.
Hopefully some of that goes away.
Yeah, obviously security risks with bridges, but hopefully some tech like this helps.
Yeah, you'd like to think so. So do you want to kick us off with your first pick?
Oh, sure. Yeah, this one, if people listen to the Solana Deep In episode, we talked about it, but is IONET. It's a distributed clustering for computer hardware. Found this one, obviously, while going through the research for Solana Deep In. It's not out yet, but it's really interesting. So the problem it's trying to solve is a lot of AI startups have emerged, obviously, in the past couple of years, and they need quick access to compute power, and a lot of it. I think I saw a stat where compute power is doubling every few months, like necessary compute power is doubling. But chips are really difficult to source and they take a long time to procure. So there's a big problem there. And then they have centralized solutions that exist like Amazon Web Services and Azure, but they're really expensive in comparison. And if you think about it, after the merge, you have all these Ethereum miners that are just sitting idle, not doing anything. So it'd be nice if they could be put to use. So IONET, they're building this distributed, decentralized net of processors for mostly machine learning clusters. And we talked about in the article, for a solution to be, to be groundbreaking, it has to be better, faster, cheaper. And I think IONET's well on its way. There you go. Yeah, that looks nice. So for better, they already have like 23,000 GPUs in their network. And last I checked, that's like 3 times more than Akash, which is the one you really think about when you think of distributed computing power. And their goal is to get to 1 million processors in their network. And they're still pretty early, so we'll see if they get there. And unlike a lot of the competition in the decentralized space, they allow for like any number of these GPUs to be clustered which is necessary for these type of workloads that machine learning goes through. But it's not really available elsewhere to define like how you want your cluster to be formed. So this alone kind of sets them apart. And obviously, since it's crypto, you can deploy all this permissionlessly. There's no KYC, there's no sign up process. You just click a few buttons and your machine's clustered and you start connecting. So another issue with like Amazon Web Services and the like, it takes a long time to spin up one of these instances. It can take up a couple days, but you can even look at their demo at Solana Breakpoint last year. They spun up an instance within a minute or two. It was really impressive. In being built on Solana, you get these micropayments that are possible. So if you want to spend $1, it doesn't cost you $20 in gas to do it. And that lowering of barriers is a big deal when it comes to these new projects getting on board with DeepIn. That and they have a ton of built-in integrations that folks already use for machine learning processes like Hugging Face, Unreal Engine, PyTorch, Ludwig, Kubernetes. It's just all plug and play when it comes to AI and machine learning apps, which is a big deal because obviously, yeah, you want to lower the barrier to entry. And yeah, it becomes cheaper too because you get all this existing hardware that's floating around in the ether not being used. And if they can plug into the network, it's just they get more money and we get to spend less money if you're building apps. So yeah, I think they said anywhere between 70 and 80% savings when compared to Azure, AWS for cloud computing. So it's kind of a win-win, right? You have way cheaper on the consumer side, and then on the distribution side, you get to actually make some money with your idle hardware. And we talk about a couple things at the end of here, like narratives, raises, token, bear case. As far as narratives, I think the AI narrative is really strong and people want exposure to that AI and crypto side of things. You can just see how well Render does when there's any action on NVIDIA and TradFi or anything like that. People want exposure to that. And I think IONet makes a whole lot of sense. Problem is most of these AI crypto projects are vaporware. Not saying Render's vaporware, but it's really frothy, if anything. But a lot of these smaller caps or newer projects just seem like, why do they exist? As like they're just trying to get as many keywords as they can in their docs. It's just annoying to read through all this. Yeah, it's insane. It's like, let's see how many of the keywords we can hit. But
yeah,
anyway,
put an extra zero on the initial pre-seed raise for every buzzword you can fit into the landing page of your deck. You know that.
Exactly. Yeah, if you put AI somewhere in your deck, it's instantly another zero. But the access to this type of hardware is definitely a use case that crypto can help with, right? You want that thin middleware that can connect the buyers and the sellers of this hardware. So it makes a ton of sense. And they just raised pretty big Series A from Paradigm and Sequoia, 124 million. It's nothing to scoff at. Yeah, and they're apparently planning a token launch end of this quarter. So I'm interested in it. I guess the bear case obviously is there's a competition and we don't really know what the tokenomics are going to look like completely. They're probably going to use some kind of burn and mint equilibrium like a lot of those other DeepIn projects. But they have some pretty strong backers. I'm guessing the initial launch is going to go pretty well. But yeah, I'm excited about it. And this is one of the ones I'm watching pretty closely. Obviously, I've talked about it twice, so it's a pretty cool one.
I wonder what that FTV is then it launches at. It's got to be in the billions, is it?
Yeah, you would think maybe 10% raise or something like that. So yeah, pretty. I don't know if it's frothy, but it's pretty interesting anyway.
Yeah, I mean, wonder where that puts it on the. Like, I'm just gonna bring up CoinGecko for a second on the AI category because you definitely tie it into that. I think.
Yeah, it's basically
just
being
looking
priced
at
as like L1 or something.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of other people speaking about this, and they're all people I actually really trust. So there's quite a lot of good confluence around this. As you say, a lot to still be desired when we can actually figure out what the raise is, what the actual float is going to be, how they're going to get it into the market, like all that kind of good stuff as well. But I don't know. I like it. You keep banging the drum on it.
I think it's pretty cool, man. It's it seems like it's really well thought out. Obviously, it's pretty high raise, but we'll see. We'll see if that watermark is passed.
I did hear, and this is complete hearsay, so don't quote me on this. But so Messi was back on Eurolab's stream last night,
Yeah.
and he was saying about Akash and having motivated founders, and he doesn't necessarily think Akash founders are still motivated after the past few years because they're all mega rich. But there is something to be said to that. And like these new emerging protocols that have got investors to kind of make whole and do well by and capture this narrative. But you know,
Yeah,
he's a very,
incentives have to
very
be
well
aligned
connected
for the
man.
long term, right? It's like if the incentive only runs 2 years, I mean, well, that's how long they're going to be interested in it um, from any side of things, right? Whether that's the builder, investor, community, you just have to align incentives. So it's your turn.
Oh, okay. So let me pull up the notes. So my first pick was Movement Labs. Now I'm very much in the. I want to bring up their website because I'm a sucker for a really good website. So, what are these guys? If you've listened to Still Early podcast, which I encourage you all to go and subscribe to, that's our second production, looking at founder interviews with areas of the industry that we think people might be talking about in the near future. And before delving into Move and the Move ecosystem, obviously, initially your mind is going to go towards Aptos and Sui. And there's a bit of a backstory. Aptos and Sui were two projects that actually spun out of. Can you remember the Libra DM Facebook project?
Yeah, of
Remember that
course.
whole? So I don't know who put the stop to that. I'd probably say someone very, very high up in government because they were making some serious headway with it. And then one half of that Facebook internal project spun out into Aptos and one spun out into Sui. And while they were actually building it, they were actually looking at Solidity as a language and the EVM at scale. And they said, no, we're going to rip this up and we're actually going to write something from scratch. So that's where Move was initially born, and that's where the programming language of Move as a smart contract execution environment was actually developed, which is quite cool. But you know what I'm like for ridiculous valuations, and I think they raised that like 11 billion or something. They got that Silicon Valley money. So I'm not too encouraged by those two as ecosystems, although between us here, I'm hearing a lot of movements about Sui and a very explosive ecosystem about to come online. So keep an eye on what's happening there. But that's not what I actually want to get into today. So Movement Labs, they kind of looked at this and thought, well, what can we do to kind of accelerate this adoption in the crypto industry and beyond? So basically what these guys are as they are creating a full tech stack, full SDK for integration of Move, whether that's existing chains, new chains, sovereigns, L1s, L2s, whatever have you. They're going to be providing the infrastructure to enable Move to get truly adopted in the industry. The closest thing I can kind of liken it to is, I suppose it's an ecosystem of ecosystems. And the closest thing I can kind of relate that back to is like Atom and the Cosmos SDK. As I was saying, the closest thing I can liken it to, because I don't think there's much like this, is basically how Cosmos enabled the kind of internet blockchains, or however they kind of phrase it now. So, why Move and why am I interested in this in particular? So, as we were saying, with bridges going to more intent-based systems, why would that be beneficial? One, the amount of reentrancy attacks and minor exploits that have caused billions upon billions lost in the ecosystem is just unacceptable at this stage. And purely this comes down to a lot of the shortcomings of Solidity as a programming language in the smart contract environment on the EVM. So Move, because it was initially coming out of the Facebook camp, they had to really take a look at this and think, well, how do we kind of silo away the risk? And because of the way that move is actually designed and the move VM is actually designed, the reentrancy is, I won't say 100% mitigated because that would just be completely stupid. Every piece of code has bugs, but it's orders of magnitude better from a security perspective. I've heard this from multiple sources because I do often get carried away, so I have to go and kind of cross-reference. And it was the Movement Labs guys who told me this initially, but then, as I say, I've been to cross-check this. So if Cooper's listening, not that I didn't believe you, but you know, seemed really good. So
Trust but
what these
verify.
guys are doing, yeah, don't trust verify. So what I like about this is, one, because of the way that this is set up, Movement Labs are going to enable lots of other chains, but they're also going to have two initial chains themselves. So they're going to have M1, which is technically an Avalanche subnet, but it's built using Move, and it will have a Move VM. And then two, they're going to have M2, which is a Move VM ZK layer on Ethereum. And this is where it starts to show some of the additional benefits on top of security, as opposed to what we're currently seeing on the standard EVM. So this is going to be a buzzword. We're probably going to have to cover this in its own episode. But first, parallelized move EVM, right? So big
Yeah.
buzzword, big monad push, big say push. I think there's a few of us trying to push it. I know data availability is a big issue when it comes to parallelization, and I think Monad released their hardware requirements earlier, and a lot of people were saying that they were seemingly too low from what I could
Yeah.
gather. So Mert from Solana said, "Yeah, you're going to need to double that on the comment," but he kind of would say that. So for those of you listening on Spotify, it also says on M2, which is again move VM ZK layer on Ethereum, 0.01 less than 0.01 cent gas fees, theoretical TPS of 160,000 transactions per second, which is pretty good. Like to see that in action. And then another aspect of the industry that is kind of talked about, but a lot of L2s like to kind of just keep it hush hush and work on it in the background, is decentralized sequencer enabling sub-second finality. So another kicker that's written just below that is M2 is the fastest, most secure L2 on the market, leveraging Celestia for data availability. So maybe, just maybe, you might see another juicy tier a stick tier airdrop here. So again, high level, increased, decreased security, increased reliability through security because of Move. There's parallelization basically inbuilt, which opens up the design space massively. Drastically reduced gas fees and theoretical TPS is like really, really, really impressive. And again, this plays massively into the whole modularity aspect. There's going to be a shit ton of networks that look at this and think, yeah, we should actually have one of those. So Avalanche, technically kind of a first mover on this with M1, one of the Movement Labs' Sovereign L1. But if you listen to the Still Early episode that I did with the Movement Labs guys, they've already partnered with Arbitrum ARB, which is technically Arbitrum's tech stack to enable L2s to be spun up using the Arbitrum stack. So I wouldn't be surprised
L3s, right?
if, yeah. No, they've got two, haven't they? Arbitrum.
Thought Orbit
Which
was
one is it?
their L3s. They have Stylus, which is like anyone can spin up chains using whatever language they want. Maybe they
Nice.
built out Orbit more.
Yeah, no, you're correct. Orbit is like similar to a Nova. So basically, they're rolling that out. They said OP stack integration basically done. Polygon SCDK, I believe they call their tech stack, already done. So I think you're going to see each ecosystem take a crack at this. And if it takes off, it takes off. So what I did say right, where's it at? Solution, blah, blah, blah. Covered all that. Narratives, as I say, it's kind of a modular monster, taps into that. And obviously, a lot of nice references to Celestia. which we all like.
Doesn't hurt.
Infrastructure and co-leveraging of other ecosystems are great to kind of bootstrap initial attention, which it's definitely doing. Token, nothing yet, but you kind of read between the lines of M1 and M2. I'd imagine if you get over there and you're interacting and trying stuff out, potentially going to be something. The raises section I've put, they did a pre-seed of 3.4 mil. I'm not sure what that valuation was, but I'm sure it'll come out relatively soon. And then my bear case, and I think this is quite, you'd expect this. So I think there's probably a longer road to developer adoption than everyone anticipates. If Aptos and Sui run, and it's what it's like. It's this perpetual flywheel of hot ecosystem brings in new developer talent because rising tide lifts all ships, and then hopefully you get some retention around there and people kind of come over and take a look. It took Solana a long time to reach that kind of level. Apparently there is a little bit of a closer crossover with if you kind of got a strong base of Rust, and Coop was saying there's like roughly around 2 weeks and you should be able to get your head around it to quite a high level if you do actually have that strong fundamental base. But yeah, long road to developer adoption, not necessarily battle tested with regards to security and lendiness, although there are huge pros to the actual programming language in and of itself. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a long one. I don't think you're gonna get a million X overnight, but if it begins to pique developer interest, then I think it's definitely one to watch.
Yeah, I actually heard that Move is a lot easier to learn than Rust from a developer side. I'm obviously not a dev, but I have heard that. I do wonder how well they're going to integrate with all these different tech stacks, or how well they're going to all play nicely together. There's just so many L2s these days. Hopefully those interoperability standards become standard just so they can all play nicely together. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see this new language and how it interacts with the rest of things. Because yeah, like you said, Sui and Aptos are kind of their own monsters on their own. So it's pretty cool.
They're even slightly different.
Yeah.
Variations on Move as well.
Right.
So you wouldn't have 100% equivalence or portability if you had an app on Aptos this week. So there is slight variation in each implementation of the code base there as well, which obviously throws things to shit. So
it's funny, right? It's like all these silos within Ethereum or these different chains. Interesting. It's pretty cool though. Yeah, excited to see these guys build.
What's next on your list?
So next up, I had Ritual. So they're basically a decentralized AI co-processor for different applications. So I started looking into this. It came up as a project that's bootstrapping their security with eigenlayer restaking, because I've been going through a lot of restaking stuff recently. So basically the problem they're trying to solve is AI models these days are constrained massively because they're behind permissioned and centralized APIs. So if you think like the big ones like ChatGPT, they're very, very constrained. So existing platforms don't offer any guarantees or proof that their data is accurate. Like it flat out says ChatGPT can lie to you, and it can do it with a straight face pretty much. Yeah, there you go. And or even how they came up with their solution in the first place. You have no idea where the data came from. So what Ritual is trying to do is they're trying to host these nodes where users can host AI or machine learning models, and they're basically trying to give that compute access and model creating access to these different creators. And these hosts can fine tune these models permissionlessly. There's no overlord saying what you can and can't do with these models. And then with these models, Rituals allows different smart contracts to easily query these models. So like from an all singular common API. So the AI can handle complex logic and automation on chain that smart contracts are not well equipped to do. So you have these AI models and you have these smart contracts, and basically Ritual acts as that integration point. So it integrates, so like a smart contract can call an AI model can call a smart contract. So there's some huge possibilities there. And because it's all built on chain, there's guarantees of privacy and security with built-in proofs right there. Um, and they're bootstrapping their security with Eigenlayer, and they're going to be accessible by any chain and also by Web2 services because they have this general messaging passing design. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be located on Ethereum to use this. You can be any chain or basically just calling this API to use it. So I'm pretty excited about it. There are some other protocols out there with a similar goal, but I think Ritual is the most well thought out. It really ties into the AI narrative that we're already talking about. And with modular blockchains, if you look at their architecture, it's trying to leverage the best of the business. They have this really cool architecture diagram. Yeah, if you actually go and click on the link below that, I think you can play around with this one.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, you can like hover over any of these pieces. Maybe not. There's another, I can link a page.
Yeah.
But anyway, you can hover over all of them. Pretty cool. I think it feels like they thought about everything in detail on how best to do this. No token yet. Obviously, they're just testing out. They call it the infranet, which is their first set of nodes. But it's live. That part is live for builders today that mess around with. And the idea is that if you build a node, if you build an AI model that's very useful, you get rewarded more. And depending on how well you build these models, hopefully it rewards the most useful ones. They had a Series A that was raised $25 million, so pretty hefty still. But yeah, as far as bear case, there are some other protocols out there that have a similar goal. But like I said, I think this one's really well thought out and has some really smart backers. So I'm pretty excited about these ones in particular. I think it checks some boxes. Like we're always looking out, like we said, for the AI products that actually make sense, and I think this one actually makes sense.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I guess another risk is that it opens up at a crazy high valuation given all this hype, and the tokenomics don't make sense. But we'll see. I think this one has a lot of potential. I think it makes sense to decentralize these AI models just because if you give so much power to these centralized actors, it becomes really dangerous.
Well, I think that was a lot of Elon's pushback over OpenAI, and I know there was another angle that he didn't like it being for profit, even though they're rolling out Grok, which doesn't make any
Right.
sense. But yeah, I suppose like if you keep it open and decentralized, then you know any shenanigans that are actually going on under the hood, then it's open and transparent for people to see. But pretty stacked cap table. Biology seems to be on every single cap table on the
I know.
planet.
It's killing it. Yeah, and Calvin too from Eigenlayer. He seems
Yeah,
to be on a lot of these too.
yeah, looks like it might take a bit of secondary from his Eigenlayer.
Yeah,
So
no, it makes a lot of sense.
um, you good with that one? Should we move on?
Yeah, I found the architecture link. It's right under the image I posted in the notes. So if you can share that if you want. But yeah, pretty cool. Excited about that one.
This one?
Yeah, that one right there. So you can hover over any of these pieces, and it'll tell you right below how each of these things
Ah, right,
work.
okay.
Maybe not those ones specifically, but like the restaking and no, that was it. Just those ones didn't
Ah,
particularly
right,
do it.
okay.
Yeah,
Modular storage shared secrets. Oh, this is actually really cool.
yeah. Because it is kind of a complex design, but they try to break it down into how it works.
Man, you could fool me with a great website. I'm such a sucker for this kind of
Yeah,
thing.
that's another zero on the cap table too.
Yeah, absolutely. Interactive deck, all in.
You'd be surprised, man. See some decks that are really shoddy.
All
It makes
right,
a big difference. Yeah. All right. You wanted to go
where did I
next?
go from? Yeah, so I think you've probably got some thoughts on this one as well, but my second choice was ClayStack. So found this during doing some DD for Blockmates 2024 thesis. So and thanks to everyone who's read that. There's some really great numbers coming in and lots of nice feedback. So right. So what's the problem? I actually interviewed the guys from SSV Network yesterday, which are paying a huge attention to distributed validator technology. And I think we're going to be hearing an awful lot of this because there's a lot of projects going online, a similar sort of time that are operating in this environment. And high level to this is DVT. A couple of the operators in this biz are SSV Network, Orbol, ClearStack, albeit kind of different take on it. But it's a way to mitigate any single point of failure on liquid staking. So you can actually split up a validator key into numerous different keys and different geolocations across different execution clients, um, all different across different pieces of hardware. So again, just removing any single point of failure if one of those validators or one of those nodes were to go down, you're still fulfilling your duties whilst you're staking on the network. So increase reliability, increase durability of the network, increase decentralization. Obviously, there's a lot of talk around Lido's market share is not going anywhere anytime soon, right?
Right.
It's just not. Did you see the numbers for the vote, the
Oh
self-evident
yeah,
vote?
ridiculous. Yeah, it's like 90.
99.8% voted against.
Yeah.
So
It's like, no, why would we?
no, why would we? I'm not doing it. So
It is funny
we
though,
can
like the incumbent or the folks that are trying to unseat Lido, it's like, yeah, we'll self-limit. Yeah, if we won't put ourselves above 33%. It's like you're not even close to 33%.
kind
It's
of
very
bullish,
noble of
isn't
you.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so the issue is that's not going anywhere. Not going anywhere anytime soon. There's inherent risk on that. There's something we should actually do. Maybe it's just a 1 or 2 pager on the supermajority of Geth as well, because that's obviously a big issue as
Oh
well
yeah.
as being the main execution client on Ethereum, which is causing a lot of concern recently. And yeah, so DVT as a way to kind of mitigate that or dampen the effects of that and just increase reliability across all the validators that are plugging into distributed validator technology. So because I've been eagle-eyed around SSV for a while, and I think SSV is going to be potentially a good player, not financial advice and all that good stuff. They did actually come out with a post recently where they said, and I'll get onto ClayStack in a minute, but this is kind of like just setting the scene for you, that they could actually use DVT to tap into restaking and shared security and enable a much more reliable network of validation across the actively validated services, whether that be insert product here, Bridge, Oracle, L2, as we've seen, that are going to be leveraging their security from restake through Eigenlayer. So
Interesting.
ClayStack comes around and basically immediately after hearing all this and reading all this pops up and just a plug for the roll up, which I think are a really good media organization. They've got a great podcast. They've got a lot of great content that comes out, primarily focused on modularity and all that good stuff. I think we'll get Andy on relatively soon just to talk through that because I really like what those guys doing.
Oh, he's a great
And
guy.
these, yeah, they brought up they brought up ClayStack and put this on the radar, and again it popped up during due diligence, and then kind of came up in this SSV talk as well. So it's like that rule of three. If you hear it from three separate kind of
Yeah.
sources, then go and check it out. But so basically, what their website's saying for anyone listening is natively restake your ETH in a slash resistant modular distributed validated technology based liquid staking protocol. So that is a bit of a mouthful, but in essence, basically that means you're gonna stake ETH through Eigenlayer, and then you can actually restake that across a lot of actively validated services, whether that be, as we say, a Bridge, an Oracle, whoever's using the Eigenlayer to bootstrap their initial security. And not only do you just stop there, you can then also decentralize and increase the reliability and remove the single point of failure of the validators of that restaking network. So basically, it just makes the whole restaking and actively validated services that are using the shared security of Eigenlayers restaked ETH, and it just ensures a much smoother process, a lot less downtime, a lot less reduced slashing risk. I don't know if slash resistant is the right phrase here because a lot of stuff can still go wrong, and you'd need every validator to opt in to
Well,
being running on DVT as well to make it
yeah, I
completely
think
slash
it's
resistant.
just saying that. Yeah, I think it's just saying that there's less of a chance that all of these validators are going to collude at the same time. Like if one validator is colluding or is trying to act maliciously, it's sharing the keys, so it can't
Yeah,
overrule everybody else. So it just kind of
yeah,
spreads it out even more.
exactly. So I think you're going to see a lot of this, and like I put in the notes, it's a bit of a narrative monster in the fact that it's tapping into restaking. It's going to be probably plugged into a lot of AVSs.
All the
And
keywords.
also, yeah, and I also think DVT is only going to come onto people's radar more and more over the next couple of months, because I know a lot of these, like Obol doesn't have a token. The token for ClayStack, I believe you can stake ETH on ClayStack, and then you, I don't want to say the P word, but you start to receive Clay points.
It's everywhere, man.
and
Can't escape it.
and be, and because they're restaking, you stake on their platform, and they'll restake it in Eigenlayer for you. You're technically earning double points because you're earning the Clay points, and then you're earning the Eigenlayer restake points as well. So
All the
want to check
points.
out what did I put for bear case? So bear case, it goes over people's head. um, DVT is slow to be adopted by LSTs and LRT providers. I know Lido are doing a capped rollout, so like I don't know, 0.5% of nodes in their selected network will start implementing and start using DVT. So I think it's a long adoption curve, but I think there'll be a lot of social pressure to move towards it. And that the last point was, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Oh, yeah, it actually does. Gets lost in the source of lots of other shiny restaking projects that probably have a lot more Ponzinomics going on. So that's
Yeah.
ClayStack.
Yeah, with restaking, you do get a lot into compounding risk. So I think it's going to become glaringly obvious that there is way more risk in these LRTs versus the LSTs. So I think DVT is going to take the spotlight eventually. Maybe not right away until something blows up and people are like, "Uh-oh, how could we have prevented this?" And something, and DVT is going to take the spotlight, I think. But it's really cool. Yeah, I like that we're actually talking about it and that one of the options exists. If protocols can stop launching LRT projects so I can finish my research, that'd be great. Seems like there's a new one every day and I could add it to my list.
Man, I've got so many as well that haven't even came out with stealth that I need to kind
Are
of
you
send you over.
serious?
But
Oh god.
yeah.
Yeah, I started it with a list of 10. I think there's 14 or 15 now. It's it's ridiculous. But it's good to see people are building. It is exciting times for sure.
Your next one's a great pick.
Yeah, man, I've been wanting to talk
I
about this
love
one
this.
for a while. So it's pretty cool. So the next one, third one on my list is Parcl. So basically, real estate perps. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, we'll get there. So I was playing around with Solana a lot right before the Jito airdrop. I guess I got lucky. Um, but anyway, playing around with Solana, see what was out there, and I think Ansem mentioned this one a while back. Before it had a points program, before it got everyone on everyone's radar. I thought it was pretty cool. So the whole idea that people want real estate exposure on chain has been kind of a meme for a while. Because who actually wants it? I don't know. But I think it's kind of cool that we're trying different things. But it's been an issue. Like it's been tough tokenizing the real estate because you think about the liquidation process of selling a house is very complicated, and you can't just market sell a house um, because you actually has to physically sell that piece of property. And you have to trust that
There's no AMMs for houses.
no, unfortunately not. And do you have to really trust that the centralized institution is going to act on your best interest and not be like a greedy middleman taking 20% spreads or whatever?
They'd
And
never do that.
no, they wouldn't do that. Yeah, definitely not. I mean, you saw what was that USDR that was backed by real estate? There's a liquidity issue, right? So
Yeah.
if there's actually physical real estate backing it, there's an issue. So the solution that Parcl came up with was like a VAMM design, which is kind of like how GMX operates, where traders are trading against a single liquidity pool. So you have funding rates in place so that the market converges towards like a 50-50 long short. And there's margin requirements that also increase if you skew the trading of the market too much. So if you skew it way more towards long or short, more in funding and pay more margin requirements too. And there's trading and liquidation fees. So in theory, the house should always win, or in this case, the LPs that back up these pools should always win. It's, as you can probably guess, it's really influenced by synthetics, a lot of influence there, and you can cross margin. So you can long short different markets and have those positions cancel them out a little bit. So you don't have to post margin for both, which is pretty cool. The real big innovation they have is their price feed model. It tracks real estate prices on a daily basis across multiple markets and property types, and they use it one single metric. They use price per square foot. So that's the only metric you're going to see here, and it's kind of novel because other indices do exist. Like you've probably might have heard of like the Case-Shiller index, but that really only looks at very specific types of properties. Like Case-Shiller only looks at single-family houses. They only consider repeated sales. They have lags on when this data is released, and they don't really have granularity on which market is which. So from Parcel's point of view, they have this internal bespoke process to ingest the data and output a median daily price per square foot estimate. So every day they release a new price and the market shifts a little bit. And with their model, they can look at a varying degree of different geographical scopes. So you can look at the state level. This is all, for the most part, US. But they have a couple of new ones here. I guess they have some French markets too. But you can look at like the state level, the metro level, the city level. You can kind of expand the aperture as much as you want. And they have this API built in that other project could leverage if they want to. So they could build on that API too. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
I love
Denver has been
how
really
I love how
crashing a bit.
Denver is the biggest loser across the past 3 months, and that's obviously because ETH Denver is happening relatively soon.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't want
Exactly.
all the crypto pros are coming to town.
No, Denver's been it's shot up like crazy, and people moving there like last 10
Oh,
years. So I
really?
can only oh yeah, people trying
Just a
to
bit of reversion to the mean.
yeah, I think it's just mean reversion. I think a lot of these too, like San Fran and Brooklyn's in there too. So kind of the big cities, yeah, struggling a bit. But it's interesting anyway. And yeah, they
That
have a
London
few more.
market's home. I know a lot of
Yeah,
people paying
Denver.
like $500,000 for like a 2-bed flat.
That's insane, man. Yeah, Denver, it's like any nice suburb, it's like $1 million for a house. It's insane.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, speaking from experience. But yeah, they have a decent TVL ever since they launched points, of course. So I guess that's how you get exposure. Check out their points program, pretty cool. And the only reason I wanted to do this episode was to show my ref link anyway, so it's fine. Yeah, but it's pretty fun.
Put that in the description, by the way.
Yeah, you just use 563. You got me. I can feed my family. Just playing. It's fun to play around with these new projects for sure, and to see one that's not just a new, I don't know, it is a perp dex, but it is kind of a novel idea. It's pretty cool, and they actually have some new data or some new technology that they're using, right, with their proprietary index model. But yeah, narratives they're attaching themselves to. Solana DeFi, which has been kind of struggling. Obviously, you always think of like Ethereum and the L2s as DeFi, and maybe Solana for consumer apps or different types of apps that aren't necessarily DeFi. And then real world RWAs for if that ever comes back, something physical that you can tie down where it's not just monkey JPEGs. But in theory, there are houses that back these up, at least somewhere down the line. No token yet, obviously, but we talked about there's points. Go farm those if you feel like it. They had a seed round back in December of 21, so it's been a while. They raised $4 million back then. They had some pretty big VCs, Archetype, Dragonfly, Shima, Parify, Coinbase, Tribe. So some big names, but they haven't raised in a while. But it seems like they keep shipping. They just released their new version, so that part's exciting to see. I'm kind of interested to see if they raise anytime soon because
I'd
it seems like the right time.
Yeah.
It's been a while. But yeah, bear case, I guess, that no one cares about trading real estate in the blockchain. At least they offer leverage for you guys, so go ahead. I think maybe it's only up like 5x or something like that, but it's still pretty cool. Something fun to play around with anyway.
Yeah, I love that one. I think it's great. I'm gonna try and align calendars and get them on. I know that me being out here was a pretty difficult time to get them on, but if I have to do it early or late, I think it'd be a good conversation. Do you move on? Last one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this one is Blueberry Protocol, and this is not to be mistaken with the Blueberry Club from GMX, but
definitely not.
Blueberry.
Very different.
I'm trying to get to the landing page. It won't have it. But anyway, right. So Blueberry Protocol, if you search it on Twitter, It's got the blueberries. I think the tag is Blueberry Foundation or some shit like that. But I'll leave all links below in the description. So how I found it is I actually spoke with Slater, their founder, a long time ago now, and I knew through the bear they were working on this product called Bloom, which was like a RWA treasuries backed stablecoin, which is actually quite topical with Undo happening at the minute. But they were always working on Blueberry, and Blueberry seeks to increase the amount of capital efficiency that you can actually get from a lending market. So the first time I came into DeFi and I seen Compound and Aave and stuff like that, I was like, why would anyone want to deposit $1,000 and borrow $800? I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That's when I was really, really smooth brain. And I was like, oh, it's actually leverage, or you can go long or short. But that is technically still an issue, and because of the permissionless nature of DeFi and the industry as a whole, you're probably always going to have over collateralized lending as the kind of mainstay in lending and borrowing and money markets in the industry. But it's not very capital efficient, and it's a little bit boring. And it's quite intensive. You're not using kind of yield box strategies or degen box under the hood to kind of just manually enable your loops and your unwinding as well. So there was a taboo about under collateralized lending protocols in DeFi because none of them seem to actually work for a number of reasons. But, and this is a big but, I think these guys have actually potentially, touch wood, like them, cracked it. So I wouldn't say it's too dissimilar from a gearbox, if you've ever used gearbox, but
Right.
they kind of silo and isolate away any risk for each specific trade. So basically what happens is, let's say, for example, you've got ETH. Let's say you've got $1,000 worth of ETH and you want to go 5x long on ETH using their lend and borrow market. So you're not going to be able to do that on Aave unless you loop it a billion times, and you're still never going to be able to do it anyway. So what you can actually do is borrow up to 1,000 times loan to value, or LTV. And the way that they actually do it and the way that they silo it and isolate the risk is, once you state your collateral, state how much you want to borrow, and then state the actual use of your borrow, so like what strategy you're actually going to do, then they bundle all of that into an NFT. So you've got the collateral asset, the borrowed asset, and the strategy, and then basically your position's opened. So let's say in that specific NFT, you want to go. What could be quite interesting actually is if you took some staked ETH there, deposit it in. Let's say you deposit $1,000 worth. Say you want to go 5x long. So in the NFT, you've got your $1,000 worth of staked ETH. You've got the borrowed amount, which is $5,000 worth of staked ETH, and then you've also just said this is just a long position. So the NFT represents the whole position. Now, just because you're borrowing doesn't mean you're removing any risk of liquidation. You certainly are. But then let's say that price drops, I don't know, 20%, then obviously that you're going to hit your liquidation threshold, and then the position unwinds, and the borrower and the protocol takes its fees, and then it unwinds, and you've been liquidated, you've been wrecked again for the 10th time this week. But it's quite interesting. Yeah, exactly. It's just a note. You probably won't get a liquidation email, which could be quite nice, but you know. But what
Be a nice surprise in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. Just wake up and you're not going to be woke up to a lot of Binance or Bybit emails. But what I thought was really interesting is, so you can definitely just specify if you want to kind of go long and short. That's completely fine. They're gonna have leveraged yield farming strategies with with other selected protocols. So say there's a convex ETH position, there might be a position that you could deploy into that's kind of on curve or something like that, and they're going to be like kind of already preset strategies. So you could go leverage long on, I don't know, staked ETH that's in convex earning CRV and CVX rewards, whatever. And they're also going to enable these concentrated liquidity AMM vaults where you could actually just say, I've got $1,000 worth of ETH. I want $5,000 worth of ETH exposure in one of your UniV3 vaults. So it's like a kind of leveraged concentrated liquidity position as well. So there is a token announced. You'll be happy to know they're going to do a lock drop. No points on
Nice.
this one. So you can
Something
actually
different.
go and you can actually go and take a peek at that. So again, that one's Blueberry Protocol, and yeah, I've spoke to the team. Genuinely good people. You know, you can always get a good kind of
Good vibe.
assessment when you speak to them in real life. And yeah, I'm quietly optimistic. I think there's going to be a shit ton of LST and LRT strategies that could get implemented here, and degens are going to degen, and they're going to look to the likes of Blueberry to kind of gain that additional exposure without going through the painstaking looping of RV and other money markets on the market. But I think that one is the last one for me.
Yeah. So help me understand. So I guess the benefit over perps, because on perps you could just go 5x long, right? The benefit is that you can take that 5x position and then do something with it. So do something else within DeFi. So you go and you have your 1 ETH and you want to borrow 5 against it, and then you can go put that in some kind of leverage yield farm. That's pretty cool because you get 5x exposure to that farm. But I guess you do still have a liquidation threshold you have to be careful of.
And I think lending like money markets are a little bit easier on the fees as
Yeah,
opposed
that
to
makes sense.
like
Thing.
Aave and Compound. APRs typically always outperform the likes of your on-chain perps dexes as well. So like a lot of people, you see a lot of large money moving around, and you can see them leveraging or shorting. They're probably going to be using the money market
That makes
as opposed
sense.
to actually going and eating a shit ton of slippage on a perps dex. So pros and cons of both, obviously, but yeah, it seems quite interesting. A little bit something unique, I think.
Yeah, no, probably because funding rates change around so much too on those dexes. Yeah, a little more, yeah, expected. That's cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see a lot of this innovation happening with the DeFi space and doing some fun stuff with these money Legos.
Absolutely. So I think that's it for Q1 episode of tokens and projects to watch. I think that was a good one. I
Yeah,
think
man.
we'll
No, there's a lot more to look into. So hopefully folks are paying attention to the markets because there's a lot of cool projects launching right now.
should we do an LRT episode soon?
Oh man, yeah, sure. There's a lot to go through, but I'm down.
Might have to be a week-long live stream.
It's good. Yeah, I know. I'm trying best to understand how we should present that. I don't know. We can figure it out. There's a lot to
Yeah.
go through, so maybe that would be helpful to people because there's a lot out there.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed that, please like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.